Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to have you here at a panel with the title Cyber Monday, Security for Sale. Of course, today is not the Cyber Monday, and we cannot sell you security product and tools with high discount. What we want to sell you is food for thoughts, and according to the topic of DLD, share with you optimism and courage. And we have very exciting panelists here, starting to give us an input to settling the scene with Udo. He is the Executive Director of ENISA, and he will share what we have to do. Please, Udo.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Gabi, for this kind introduction. ENISA is a European cyber security agency, and if you have some time, look on our website. If you Google ENISA, you will find us, for the advertising part. I want to give you a couple of ideas to set the scene for this discussion. Let's start with something when we talk about what was mentioned by Steffi, data leaks, data protection, personal rights. It's in the end also about cyber ethics, which means how do we deal in this new cyber world with all our business data, personal data, whatever we have in our social networks. And this is what we call, in the end, cyber hygiene. This is like you wash your hands, you should also take care about your passwords, your assets, your digital assets, in whatever environment you are. And what you see, and this is something what I want to address here, is we talk now for a decade or more that ICT, IT, is everywhere in our society. But if you look into it, it's in these days or these years where you realize that you cannot live anymore without IT. If you look when you have just any smartphone, then nearly everything is in it, your calendar, your assets, your picture. And sometimes just imagine when you lose your phone. If I lose it today, I wouldn't have the agenda with me anymore if I would not have a printout. So the challenge is now when you have all this in your business or private life, in your devices, in your IT infrastructures, what does it mean for IT security? So IT security, it's something which is not a sexy topic because it's effort. If people say you need a 16-digit or letters password and you should have it for different accounts, it's unrealistic. So this means a lot of things what we learned in the past need much more technology support. If you do your online banking, it's also something where it's important that you have two-factor authentication, that you might have a dongle or something else. So the challenge is that if you move in this digital world, you always should, with a, let's say, mindset, what you do in your real life, go through the digital world. When you lock your car, when you lock your door, lock your PC. It's in this sense trivial. So let me just address a couple of points. When we look about IT and IT security, it's also a bit a clash of cultures. Because when we talk, for example, about IT security, it's about integrity, it's about confidentiality and performance. This is the three cornerstones of IT security. Just to look a bit back, it's not our topic, but since Snowden, NSA in the US, we know it's difficult with confidentiality. If you are having bank accounts, money transfer, it's a lot about integrity. You don't want that any transfer money is changed. If you look about availability, this we achieved in most of the cases. We have cloud services. Availability you have nearly everywhere as long as you have a broadband connection or a mobile phone. Another point is these days skills. When we go in this new world, it was said before in the interviews, what is the big next thing? Artificial intelligence, robotics. And we were also in the discussion this morning, what is about labor forces when artificial intelligence applications can take over blue-collar work, call centers, or cashiers. Then the challenge is, where are the skills for these new business models, for this new development of apps? And this is a kind of talent of war. Then it's also something where I just want to give you a bit more example from the last couple of days is when we had in Germany 2 weeks ago this data leakage, or when you saw it on the internet in some business, let's say, or in some tickers, 300 million data sets leaked. Then it's also a question about our democracy. How do we deal with trust, really with this information there? And just a thought, what I experienced in Germany, how the reaction of politicians is. It's something where immediately there starts bashing from one party to the other, press on the minister and vice versa. And what happened here is, and you should think about it, it's not about, this was my 5 minutes, it's not about just leakage of privacy. It was a disturbance for 1 week, the political scene in Germany. For 1 week, it was nothing in the press then about this data leakage. And I think we should be prepared at least for the next European election. I want to close with something because I want to thank Angelika Niebler. She was a rapporteur in the Parliament for the new ENISA regulation with certification. If you talk about certification, we have a great panel here which will talk about also what does certification mean for products and services. And with this, I want to give back to Gabi.
Thank you, Udo, very much. Yeah, I would, yes, applause. Maybe allow me to add something more. Actually, we are living in an exciting time, a golden age of innovation. It was not, technology is developing so fast that you see that we have something like 50 billion interconnected devices, IoTs, that we have something like 163 zettabytes of data in 2025, that algorithms are developing algorithms, and that quantum computing and blockchain will allow us to solve problems that we are not able to do so now. Thus, the digital society is really important. Cybersecurity and trust are the pillars of the digital society. And according to the European Commission, also 75% say they have positive impact on economy, digitalization, on society, and the quality of life. Allow me to give you a vision, or to say what's the next. We are living quite in an app-based world. We have apps for everything. But who knows how to do, what to do, apps to use it? The next development stages are intelligent assistants. Intelligent assistants that orchestrate apps, that use data, that learn to help you. And the third development phase are AIs. AIs that are learning and that are supporting you in the digital society. Now, the basis is trust for this. Do I trust Alexa now? I'm not so sure. They have some concerns of privacy. But maybe we should have something like European strong industry in IT and European AI. And my question to Angelika, who is member of the Parliament and also rapporteur for the Cybersecurity Act, what is Europe doing here?
Well, actually, the most important thing is that I think we do not only think about national solutions or national approaches, but I think we have also a European responsibility for cybersecurity. And that is why the Commission 2 years ago proposed the Cybersecurity Act. We in Parliament heavily debated that issue, and we heard a lot of stakeholders involved. We wanted to learn, how cybersecurity is practiced, how do companies, individuals, public sector, how industry, how they are coping and how they are managing, to get a high standard of cybersecurity. And after that, we passed this Cybersecurity Act that will come into force in the middle of this year. So we think we need a European approach. We had been very alarmed by the WannaCry attack last year, where more than 200,000 IT systems had been affected all over Europe. And for us, that was also a sort of evidence that, well, it's great, and we need strong cybersecurity units everywhere in Europe, in all member states, but we also need a European approach, and I'm more than happy, Udo, you mentioned it, we have a wonderful cybersecurity agency established years ago, situated in a lovely place. Of course, Munich is the nicest place to go, but apart from that, you can also go to Athens, where ENISA is established. And what we did in Parliament, we said if we want to have a strong agency, we need to double the equipment, we need to double the budget, but we need this European answer and a European coordination agency which is well-staffed, well-equipped, and which has the manpower also to cope with threats and attacks.
With GDPR, Europe set really a standard for data protection for the world, actually. Tim Hook says we need something GDPR for the US. So maybe this is the next step to say standards also for cybersecurity.
Absolutely. That's what we actually want to achieve, yeah? And that's why you mentioned, Udo, certification schemes. We have very good national cybersecurity certification schemes in place, and you are doing, as TÜV SÜD, you're doing a wonderful job on that. But I think we need a European rollout on that as well, you know, and it's maybe easy if you certify, then, you know, companies, undertakings, you know, I think would be happy if they do not have to do the same job in all 28 or maybe in a couple of months, 27 member states in Europe. But I think it would be good to have this European rollout. And as regards the GDPR, actually we had 4 years discussions and debates with a lot of people involved in order to pass the GDPR Act. And well, we got a lot of critics on that. But traveling internationally, what I learned is that the rest of the world is really looking at what had been passed as legislation in data protection here in Europe, and it's a role model now. And the same thing, we think we might have a chance to do the same thing if we really go for a proper cybersecurity certification scheme.
Certification is a good point. To Axel. Axel, you are a CEO of TÜV SÜD, and we all trust everything what TÜV is certified. So you are also the certification in terms. How do you see, is it difficult to certify an IoT device more than a wash machine?
Yeah, the question starts really, what is the product? Yeah, I mean, we have been enabling the progress of technological developments by protecting people, assets, and environment for more than 150 years. But when we did that in the past, I mean, we knew there was a product which was in a box, that was a larger product fitting in a room. Today, all these products are in a way also defined by the software which is working in these products. And look at the smart TV, or look at an Echo loudspeaker, or look at any other smart TV, part of this functionality is no longer in this box. It's somewhere in a cloud, it's somewhere in an algorithm, it's somewhere in a server. So the first question is, where now is the product? And what is the product? And it has to be certified. And that makes it a little bit more complicated than in the past, because first of all, we do not know where the function is, and then the next complication step is that some of the functionalities are changed from 1 second to the other by just upgrading the firmware or the software in the product over the air, for instance. When you look at a car like a Tesla car, this car, which has come to European streets some kind of 4 or 5 years ago, has got more than 500 software updates over the air since then. So when this car comes into our, for instance, inspection stations, we say, oh, that's a nice car, but we don't have any clue what is behind that metal sheet. And today, there are specific conditions, everything is fine, but I think in future, when more and more products, also cars, are defined by software, then the system of testing and certification has to be completely different from the past.
So it seems good business
it is,
to do this. Abe, you are a Vice President Digital Technology of Byton, and I was fascinated by our talk we had before the panel. You said you're a security specialist, but you're turning now to engineering.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, so I think about a year ago I gave a talk in a conference called B-Sides, actually a little over a year ago now. And I was trying to get engineers to get into security, because oftentimes the problem that we have from a security perspective when we're developing products is that the security teams don't see the products until near the end of the production cycle, when it's too late. So after that conference, I came to the realization that maybe perhaps instead of being the outsider, being the security person who's always trying to get people to do things, why don't I myself turn myself into the engineer? So I took on a job at Byton, responsible for a very large engineering group, responsible for the end-to-end digital integration, and brought in security professionals to really develop the product from the start. So what we do at Byton is we have a group called Security Lab. They develop our connectivity and cloud solutions. The Security Lab then hands it off to engineering that takes it to production. Of course, we still have the standard security checks where we check the product to make sure it's secure at a later phase, but we start with a secure model from the beginning. And so why this approach is because how companies are doing security today is not working, right? Companies spend millions, not billions of dollars on security products, and we're still getting hacked. There's something just not quite right about the model that we're taking on today. So I'm hoping that by putting security at the beginning, that gives us a fighting chance to build more secure products.
So actually you're doing this, what we are thinking of, 3 rules of a secure digital society: security by design, privacy by design, and security by default.
Right, I think that's true security by design. If it's in the beginning versus what's happening today, it's at the end, right?
Okay, that's very good. Because it's very important. You said also the car is a smart next-gen device.
Yes.
And how do I trust a car who is driverless, who is driving autonomously, and who is talking to other cars, to the infrastructure? How do you assure that your cars are not being hacked?
Yeah, so this is a good question because, like, if you hack a phone, it's just data that's lost, right? Data is important. It could be your identity, it could be your money, right? But when you hack a car, it's a serious safety issue. So, so you have to design the car as a secure product, and every little piece of it, you have to look at it from how do you protect the data, from a data privacy angle, how do you ensure data privacy? So what we have is a real challenge because Byton is a global company. We're made of employees from all around the world. Our headquarters is in Nanjing, China, right? And we're selling our brand to US as well as Europe. So what we did was we made the conscious decision that we're going to put our data centers in the local regions of where the data is created. And on top of that, we'll use local data cloud providers, so since we use a hybrid cloud approach. And so I think in the future, I think one day this is really the approach that companies should take. GDPR is wonderful. I'm actually a big fan of it because oftentimes, as a security professional, we need these regulations to help give us ammunition to make sure to get changes to happen in companies. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I know that from a regulation perspective, there are challenges, right? Because you have to work with businesses to make sure that these type of effects are supported. Mm-hmm. But from a security person's perspective, I think the best way to ensure security is for countries and its citizens is to look at it as, let's regionalize the data. Let's let the local laws determine how the data should be managed, right? Because every country has different concepts of how data privacy is handled. There is a global approach to it, right, of thinking. But I think at this time of our maturity, right, that this approach is actually the best. But.
Okay. Well, actually, we need to work as an ecosystem. Everybody, yes. From industry to research, innovation, to organizations, and so on. Udo, you as executive director of ENISA, how would you say, how can we must collaborate together in terms really to see the dark side of the force, or to see, because the dark side of the force says that, for example, we have such problems or value of 500 million euros, billions, 500 billions euros of problems we have here. And how do you see this?
There are two aspects. One is, we call it, let's say, public-private partnership, but the question is sometimes really how do we implement this? And the other thing is that we need more collaboration between where I come from, governmental agencies, and then the industry and also, let's say, the consumer sector. What I want to say here, take this example about the data breaches, everyone knows us in Germany. Yeah? So if the classical pillars, you say, here's a German agency, BSI, who does prevention. Here are the law enforcement people, here are the intelligence people, and there are data protection authorities. Yeah? But it's something that is somehow goes step by step. Maybe they talk, maybe they don't talk. Then if you want to have this certification, what we talk about, you have so many stakeholders. When you think about consumer goods, yeah, the question is, where the consumer representatives talking with those who in the end have to test this like a TÜV. Yeah? If you have a car here, yeah, you have the classical people who like a car. I want to have much horsepower, and I want to be secure. Yeah? So, but the question is then, my expectation is normally that your marketing people ask me what do a consumer want to have, but all the others are then not so much integrated. I think what I want to say with this, the challenge is really what are the stakeholders in this, that when you call about public-private partnership, you really get those people together, that you get best out of it and you understand each other.
But this is difficult to understand how so we all know that we should cooperate. We all know that industry has to do with research, has to do with institutions. But sometimes it's difficult, otherwise we would have solutions and we would not have such data theft and data theft that's carried the society. Do you have a solution there?
I forgot the academia in this sentence, what I said before. Look, we are doing it that we from ENISA have an advisory group which covers consumer organization, law enforcement, regulators, academia, and also industry. And what we also try is on a European level that you have agencies like Europol, you have Frontex for border control, you have European Defense Agency for defense. We, on our level, discuss it. But I think what is a challenge still is that these models are still in this old thinking that you are in your community. I think this is the great thing what I like about this DLD conference. It's the second time that I'm here. But here you meet people just with a coffee on the corridor, which are out of completely other areas. We had an art session before with an interview. Yeah? I think this is something where a simple start would be when also we do our conferences, not only with the security-minded people, and sometimes invite a politician or someone from industry, so really make it bigger and get this interaction. And with this interaction, I'm confident automatically networks establish, and then we can think how we can formalize this stuff.
Okay. Angelika, we need strong European industry, IT solutions, IT services.
Yeah.
Because we have to get back more digital sovereignty for Europe.
Yeah.
So how can we achieve this? How can the Parliament support this, really the industry?
Well, actually, I think the job of the parliamentarians of politics is that we settle the right framework, so that industry can develop, businesses can develop, startups can create their own business and things like that. So it's not us who take care of the jobs, but that's the undertakings, the companies. But having said this, I think we need to do everything in order to encourage also business people to move into the right directions. I'd like to come back as what you have stressed, cybersecurity by design, what your company is now offering. This is actually what is written down now in our Cybersecurity Act. So we took that on board, and we arranged for for further standards. We arranged for certification, for prototype of certification, which is valid everywhere. And by giving this framework, I think we do a good job. And as regards the companies and undertakings, what is missing here, or what has been missing for years in Europe, is that we had not so much investment coming to Europe than in other regions of the world, in particular into the US or as regards China. We cannot compete with China right now. But what happened, for instance, under the current Commission term, we established the so-called Juncker Fund. This is also a fund which had been developed, now equipped with more than 370 billion euros. So at the beginning, when we talked about this, establishing that fund, which helps companies, undertakings, realizing their business ideas, everyone thought the Europeans cannot do that, but we managed. So it's a big sum of money. Yeah. Okay, compared with other regions in the world, it's still a tiny little sum, but it's a beginning. Yeah? And I think, well, let's start with that, continue with that, do the right legal framework. This is what we can do. And as regards, you mentioned the ecosystem, bringing everyone on board, academia, business undertakings, public sector, everywhere, administration. This is also what we are encouraging, by our framework program, by our research and innovation program. So I think that is our job, and I hope that that we've done what we can do right now, but we have to continue. So that's important. And last point, maybe as regards ecosystem, which had been also addressed by you, I think the people are also very important. The users. Steffi Czerny started by asking everyone here in the auditorium, when have you changed your password for the last time? And actually, that is what we also have to take into board. Everyone can do quite a lot in order to get a higher standard of cybersecurity. When changing passwords over time. I think that's also important from the politicians to campaign, to promote that everyone is in charge, not only politics, not only industry by security, by design developments, but everyone has to engage in taking care of cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. Good advice for the password, use password managers. This is quite a good tool to get really complicated passwords. Right. Axel, I think, I'm still wondering about this ecosystem, this connection of the devices, and the car is talking to the smart car, is talking to the smart home, and this is talking to the smart phone, and the IoT stuff. How can we really do certification? Like, how can you give me to say, okay, this is a device which is TÜV certified, and I trust that it's okay, it's safe, it's secure?
Yeah. I think what is important is that we find a practical way to do it. And it's definitely different if you have a product which, the Cybersecurity Act defined these 3 assurance levels, like basis, substantial, and critical or high. And it's definitely a difference if you test and certify something, let's say, in this basic sphere compared to something which is critical. Yeah? A product which is in a critical infrastructure, in a power station or in waterworks, definitely has to undergo different tests and has to be certified in a different way. And I think we are also in a kind of time-critical time, because when I read in newspapers that the increase, for instance, of home automation in Germany is very fast right now, people today buy these home automation systems, and they want to know what do they have to do and what they can buy. So they need advice what to do. And that's the reason why we, together with other technical inspection companies in Germany, we are now in the process to develop a conformity assessment scheme where we just take these simple things like smart TVs, like home automation, like all these basic things, and define from, let's say, the aspect, what you said, security by default, till, let's say, the test procedures, a series of things which has to be done to describe if something secure or is it not. And we are still, let's say, in the process to define how can we define security, because security is not an absolute thing. It is a thing, as I described before, which is dependent on the firmware, it's dependent on the time, it's dependent on several things. So it's a little bit complicated, let's say, what does such a stamp or a seal or a certificate really say for the customer. But it starts with the fact when you go today to a shop and buy a home automation system, you unpack the box, and then you start to plug it in, and then some of these devices, they not even force you to change the password. So you continue with using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, using this thing at home and connected with video cameras, taking shots in the children's room, and people just use it. And this should be avoided. And this, what we now try to come up with as a conformity assessment tool is, let's say, describing these simple things up to, let's say, complicated test procedures. But this is just for the basic part. When we go to the more complicated things like infrastructure, critical products, I think we will come to a situation that we will need a 24/7 online monitoring system. Otherwise, it will be impossible, because we can have any second in the world, we can have attacks from different attack vectors, and a classical certification going there every second week or whatever doesn't help at all. So we need to have 24/7 monitoring for these critical things, which are, of course, bullshit in, let's say, home systems.
Yeah. So we see also...
It's the bandwidth.
It's the bandwidth.
Add a little bit to that point is that security is continuous and it's continuously changing. Something that's secure today might not be secure tomorrow.
Exactly.
So that if it's a certification, it has to be some sort of a continuous cycle that's frequent enough. And maybe it's, I hate to say, a daily monitoring certification process, because it's constantly changing, right? Threats constantly change.
And expensive, yeah. So, but actually, I would like to go also to this digital competence of the digital society. So actually, the whole digital society has to have this competence. But the IT is so complex that I think it is getting even more complex. That is difficult, really, for normal society to catch up. So maybe we will have some companies that protect our privacy in the digital society. Someone who is looking after my data, protecting it, that it's not vulnerable, that's not shared around the social media, and who can afford this? Maybe.
I think just really quick, I'll say something really quick, is that if you don't have security, then you don't have trust, right? And if you can't make the absolute effort to ensure or protect the customer's data, then the customer should, the perception should be the customer will no longer trust you and will no longer use your business, right? But what businesses are seeing is that even when there is a breach, the customer, because of convenience, will continue to use your product. So that mentality needs to change before I think we can see that shift, right? Because businesses need to know that it's critical, right? And we're not necessarily at that phase of maturity as a society at this time. I think we're still trying to get grasp around the concept of I'm getting this free feature, not realizing nothing's really free in life. So it's just my comment about that.
Just two aspects. One is, when you have snow, you use winter tires. When you drive with a bike, you use a helmet. And I think this is still, in a lot of cases, a naive usage of IT in our society. So this is awareness raising or cyber hygiene. The other thing is, maybe to Angelika, a wish for the next period. We don't have liability in this area. If you have a car which doesn't work, it's the so-called callback action. Yeah, you have warranty for your car. Have you ever heard about warranty of an operating system? So I think we need something like also a mixture of awareness raising and a bit more push that the industry does a bit more.
Okay.
So actually, we should, in terms of time, I would say security made in Europe is a good brand. Angelika.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And what I learned, we have a lot of tasks still to take up and to fulfill, actually. So I think, well, the liability issue is an issue also for artificial intelligence, everything. Yeah? So we had a lot of discussions in Parliament on that already, but we did not move forward. So we'll look and see how things are developing, and then we try again to get the right framework done. But that's something we have to do. And again, labeling. So we had a lot of discussions also as to whether it makes sense to have one label. This is cyber secured, standard A, B, C, D. But as you pointed out, what is secure today might be not secure tomorrow. And that is, well, we have not yet found the proper answer to that, but I think this is also important. People have to know, is my product cyber secured, yes or no? Yeah, what are the challenges I'm facing? And how can I do on my own? How can I prevent also, being attacked? So for that, I think a lot of tasks are still waiting for us, but I hope we'll get a European answer to that, and that This is now my promotional part. Dear ladies and gentlemen, being here at the DLD conference, please don't forget that this year is a European year, that we have European elections coming up on the 26th of May, and I'd just like to promote, for supporting people who'd like to move forward in Europe, who think Europe is a good idea, because we need a lot of understanding and a lot of support in this European election, and for that, please, the 26th of May, it's a very important date, and wherever you have a chance, please promote for that.
Yes, to conclude the panel, our topic is optimism and courage. Technology is developing, it's so fast and so incredible, good, and it's so fascinating that I think we have really optimism and courage to make really the best out of it. So I would like to thank the panel for the really good discussion. Thanks again.
Thank you.